Dore brothers have been a staple in the music industry in Nevis and beyond for over 20 years. Raised in a family of 8, strangely, none of the girls took to the music industry. Fast forward to another generation, and now we've got ALISON DORE, who's now known as Ali. She's our special guest on location today in our one-on-one interview at the Old Manor Hotel. ALISON, how did it all started? When did ALISON know that ALISON could sing?
I think I always knew. I think it's something that I have been doing since before I can remember. So it's not a case of when ALISON knew she could sing. It's always been there.
From
I started, my first program was, I think my grandmother said I was 2 years old. I don't even remember. So it's been that long, and I'm now 27, so it's been a long time.
And as I said in the introduction, there were no aunts who were doing singing in a big way. There were the Dore brothers, your father Alista, Lanny, Stevenson, and Renford. What impact did they have on you?
They pushed me a lot, more so from, I would say, from my uncles than my father. My father was pushing me more into school and doing my schoolwork and making sure that he tried to get me to learn the piano at one point, which I was doing for a very good while, and then I think what had offset me is studying for my CXCs, and I just quit. But he was more focused on getting me to learn things rather than getting me to sing. He knew I could do it, and he knew that it was in me, so he wouldn't have a problem when the time came. But it was more so Uncle Ren and especially Uncle Lanny, because he's a music teacher at school, so I couldn't get away. There was no way of getting out of singing. He pushed me, he made sure that I was in the choir, and I could not miss a choir practice.
That's at church?
At school.
At school. Mm-hmm.
And I could not miss a choir practice, and there wasn't an event that he did not always want me to sing the lead, which of course most of the times I could not, because I hated singing high at that point, so I was very lazy. And Uncle Ren was the one that really pushed me to sing in the church, meaning the church choir, the combined Wesleyan choirs, etc., both local, both in the Federation, both islands, as well as, you can say, regional, because we traveled somewhat, so yeah.
You're convinced that the DNA for singing came from the Dore side, or
is
there singing talent on your mother's side?
It's both sides, because Pat Ross is a cousin of mine from my mother's side.
You've got it
close,
from all sides.
And Ben Jackson and people. But it's more so of my father's family, because as much as I know of Pat Ross and Ben Jackson, I have not been around them too much. So there's a trickle of DNA from them,
from
yes.
both sides.
But most of it comes from the Dore blood. Yes.
Now, the church. Mm-hmm. A lot has been said about the influence of church music. Mm-hmm. We've got Cissy Houston, Dionne Warwick, the late Whitney Houston. Mm-hmm. What impact did church music have on you?
Church music teaches you to appreciate music itself, the instruments. It gives you, especially when it comes to performing, it makes you think about what you're singing and the impact that it would have on people, one, and what it should do to you when you're performing it. When I used to sing in the church, yes, I used to ensure that every single word of a song, I could find some way to relate to it, because if you can't find some way to relate to a song, there's no way that anybody else in the crowd would be able to relate to that song. They will not feel it coming out of your vocals. And even in my career now, that's exactly what I do. I write my songs, I think of things that people would be able to relate to, and I think of things that I would be able to relate to in a sense. And performing it is what takes a lot, yes, but performing it is also what brings out the meaning. And I think if I did not have that church influence, I wouldn't have been able to connect lyrics to performance. And in terms of stage presence, presentation, what I say, what I do, and stuff like that, I would not have been able to. Because if you look at me when I'm performing, I am not the typical performer. Most female performers, when they are singing and they're singing secular music, they tend to get wild. I'm not like that. I think it comes, the conservative side of me comes from the church, being raised in the church, one, and two, because I'm a mother. I think both, and I know that my parents have instilled in me mothers should respect their children and vice versa. So the church, yes. Church music, gospel music, yes. If I did not have that, I would not have known how to perform properly.
Dennis Gordon, the last person I interviewed, told me that some performers feel that if they move from religious music to secular music, that there's a sort of betrayal. You're saying to me that you hold back. You're a conservative performer.
Yeah, I do sometimes.
Not only because of the church, but because of your daughter. Do you feel
like I'm a
handicapped
rebel?
by that?
No.
No?
No, because whatever you do, you're supposed to make yourself comfortable doing it. I would not be comfortable being all wild. So I cannot say that I feel uncomfortable. I feel like I'm holding back anything. No, I'm not. I'm not.
Now, you attended Gingerland Primary and Secondary?
Yes, and Secondary, yes.
What about singing in school?
Like I said, from 2 years old I've been singing. So the second I hit Gingerland Primary School, the choir started at, I think it was grade 3. You had to be in grade 3 in order to join the choir. And I, for some reason, could not wait to get to grade 3. I could not wait to get to grade 3 to go into the choir. And the second I hit grade 3, it wasn't even a question of, okay, should I go and ask to join the choir? They just come and got me and told me I was in the choir.
It was natural.
So it was constant every week. Our choir director, who was Miss Elvira Simmons,
Okay.
she used to be a choir director. She used to accompany us to Four Seasons. So entertaining people other than church started from right there, grade 3. That's in primary school.
Even then, did they give you lead parts?
And even then, I got lead parts. I was very, very, very timid.
Okay.
I was a very, very timid person.
Well, how did you overcome that?
I don't know. I think competition. I think the competition for the karaoke competition. I did a karaoke competition, and I had to break out of my shell somewhat, out of that timid mode, in order to have the crowd impact. Because as much as I was depending on my vocals, my body wasn't, I didn't have any kind of body language. I just used to stand up and I used to sing. So I think it started somewhat there, because even though I have been singing at Four Seasons from I was 9 years old, 8, 9 years old, up to this present day, even though I do that, it didn't start until about 4 or 5 years ago, the breaking out of the shell.
So you were shy through primary school, secondary school. Because karaoke is pretty recent.
Yeah, karaoke was like about 3-4 years ago. Yeah.
Now, 2003. I must confess to you that when I heard that you were going to be a contestant for the Miss Culture show, I kind of popped open my eyes, because I knew you were singing in the church. Was that a breakout time for you to go to the big stage?
Somewhat, yes. I just, at that point, to be honest, I don't know what prompted me to go in for the Queen show, other than the fact that I appreciate culture. I appreciate our local culture, and at that point, I was kind of feeling that the twist and the turns that the Culturama show was taking, it was not preserving our Nevisian culture. I find even now that it's more of a carnival to a certain aspect. It's more of a carnival than culture, Rama. So at that point, I think other than that, I wouldn't see another reason for me entering the show other than trying to help to preserve the culture, doing my part in preserving it, and also to learn about our history, because at that point it was just what I was told in school. History, Caribbean history. Local history I had to learn basically on my own for a while, or to a certain extent, and I just wanted to learn and to preserve. That was my reason for entering.
But you sang?
I sang, yes.
Yeah, what was that song?
I sang the Cadre. I sang.
Bahola's song.
I did Bahola's Cadre, and I made up a song. I cannot remember a word that I sang in the song that I made up. But I knew that I would have had to sing, because everybody would expect me to sing. But I don't think anybody expected me to play the piano, and I don't think anybody expected me to act.
Last carnival was a bit of a breakout session for you. You took the big jump, and you went to compete in the Soca Monarch competition.
Thank you.
Now, before we go to that competition, there was a name change. We knew you as ALISON DORE, and all of a sudden we heard
Alidi.
Alidi. How did that come about?
Well, actually, Alidi has been a nickname that I had given to myself, let's see, 2007, 2008, I had already started calling my name Alidi. My Facebook profile, Alidi, even back then, High Five, MySpace, everything was Alidi, because I wanted, to me, that was a start in me transforming myself into the entertainer mode. So it just started from the name, and then the image change, and then the stage change. The stage change had been there for a while though, but I was still doing my thing in the church, back and forth. But I decided that it was time for me to do what I wanted to do. So I more or less got away from singing the recorded R&Bs and stuff like that, and went into the soca field, which started actually in 2010, not last year.
Yeah, was that hard? The girl from Hamlet's Road, known to be in the Wesleyan Holiness Church, who had a father and an uncle who did only religious music. Was it difficult to make that transition?
The transition to singing something different in terms of my vocals, that's what I was worried about, because I remember when I was singing with the Friends Band at Four Seasons, and I was forced sometimes to have to sing soca, because sometimes I would have to be the one handling the gigs by myself. There was always a guy singing soca, sometimes I had to do it, and I was so concerned about my vocals being heard to its full ability. I didn't understand at that point how I should be singing soca. And so the transition for me was not so much about singing, moving from singing gospel into singing soca. My biggest fear was my voice, one, and two, I would have had to get the approval of my father, of course. Anything that Alison touches is good enough for Alistair.
He gives you support.
Yes, anything I touch. If he has a problem with it, he will tell me. But he knows that I'm not going to do anything that is going to belittle myself. So my biggest concern was not so much what he would have said, because I knew he would have supported me as long as I had lyrics that would not make him feel ashamed of his child, so to speak. So it wasn't bad.
Has the departure made you feel more empowered? In other words, you're not stuck to one genre of music. There has been a crossover. All performers want to be able to cross over. Has that empowered you?
A lot, a lot. When I hit the stage, even before I hit the stage, the minute I get that call, we would like you to perform so and so, or I get the email, we would like you to perform so and so. From the second I get the proposal, it doesn't even have to be signed. The minute I get that proposal, I just feel that aggressive side of me, which is reality, kicking in. It starts from there. For example, I remember last year I performed at a music festival, and I had to perform with the corps.
The corps, okay.
Yes, and I had to perform with Garlic, and you know Garlic is an entertainer. So the second he said, Alison, I would like you to perform this song with me, I immediately knew what I had to do. And I think at that point is when I started working on performance more than anything else. I used to do my little moves and stuff, and I had already broken out of this standing up on the stage.
Okay.
But I would never say anything to the crowd. I would always just depend on my voice and my dancing. So Garlic kind of, in a big way, helped to make that transition over into soca. I must say that what really did it for me was the corps, because those guys took me in as their sister, and they shaped me into exactly what they wanted me to be. And even up to this day, it's the same thing. So that transition is still happening.
It's still happening.
It's still happening. I'm not
Ali
quite
is
where
evolving.
I wouldn't say evolving. I would say I'm still making. I'm probably at the D in Ali D. I'm not at the EE yet.
We're gonna get there. But that's good.
Yes.
You know, you never want to get into a comfort zone.
No, I'm
to
not.
think that you have arrived.
Right. No, I haven't.
You're always moving along that path. Now, the song With or Without You, a defiant soca song. How did that come about?
Ooh, okay. Well, I was approached by my band at first, the corps, and they told me they wanted me to enter Soca Manac. And I said, me? No, I can't do that. They were like, why? I said, yes, Connor's going in. That's what I said. I said, as long as Connor's is going in, I am not going in. And they said, you can do it. So I spoke to Connor's, and he said, it's okay, he's not sure. So I felt confident going in. And then I was kind of skeptical because the band was asked to be the house band. And so they may not have been able to work with me. So I did not know what to do. So I was then contacted by Kittian singer Rolentia. And Rolentia Henry, yes. She contacted me and she said, I'm looking for a female to go in for Soca Manac, and I cannot think of anybody else but you. I said, me? Soca Manac, you too? She said, well, I already spoke to whoever and we have the okay. So it's just for you now to say okay. I waited about, let's say, a week, and I contacted her and said, yes, I'd do it. I met her and we discussed a few ideas. Never once did With or Without You come up. The ideas that she sent me and the ideas that we sat down and discussed, I wasn't feeling them. And then the music was sent and I wasn't feeling any of them. And then when I listened to the last demo, that was it for me.
Struck a chord, eh?
That was it for me. The guy that did my music, Dijon, he sent that at least a couple of weeks after. Would you believe that With or Without You was the very last? I had the other soca and that was set. But With or Without You was the last beat that I got. I did not have my groovy song. I didn't know what I was going to do for groovy. And when that came, I knew. I said from that second, that beat, that rhythm is it. And I was toying around with it and I couldn't quite come up with a concept. I went to practice one day for the other song, and Valencia said, I have this concept, With or Without You. And she sang the hook, which is the chorus. And I said, fine, I think I can work with that. And then she came up and she said, the first verse. And I said, okay, I can work with that, that's okay. I said, but we need to get more verses. I said, give me a minute. She went outside, she prepared something to eat, and by the time she came back, I had 2 extra choruses and a bridge. That was it. And so it was more of a sitting down. It was a bedroom studio vibes that we were re-practicing, and it was more of just laying down on the bed, all of us, and I just came up, I just put my headphones in, listened to the rhythm, and that was it. When I did the second verse, I was thinking, with or without you, without my friends, I'm gonna have a good time for Carnival for the second verse. And then I said, okay, people would like to hear this thing about your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your husband or your wife not going out to party, but it's Carnival, it's your heritage, so you wanna go out and have a good time. So with or without them, you're gonna go. So let me write something about that. Yeah. Then I wrote a bridge which we did not use. We ended up with a different bridge right in the studio over by Abo. While we were recording, it took about 3 minutes to write the last part. But that last part was aided by Kareem Herbert. He's my PRO for the core, LL, yes. And Rihanna Wong, yes.
That song
She's my driving force, Rihanna.
That song was a stroke of genius. I didn't make that show, but I remember lying in bed and the announcers introduced you. They said, powerfully built ALISON DORE from Nevis. And it seemed as if you turned up the place. What was the reaction like that night?
It was crazy. It was crazy. I never expected, and even for the semi-finals, first of all, the semi-finals, when I was really scared for the semis. I was backstage, I was frantic, I was sweating, I was walking back and forth, pacing a lot. And when I heard my name called, I realized that people were screaming and shouting. But I guess at that point they wanted to see if I would be able to perform the song, because a lot of people they knew me. They knew that I'm not really a performer, so to speak. So that was a big iffy. Then when I performed it, I knew at that point that I would make it into the finals. Final night, I had a rough week or 2 weeks preparing for practicing and preparing to go back and forth. I think it's Nevis. At one point I just stayed down for about a week, almost 2 weeks. Finals, when my name was called and I went out on that stage, even before that, I had a bit of a setback because something for my presentation was not working. So I was kind of worried. But then when my name was called and I realized I have to go. And I had to call out each instrument to be played, because that was my instruction to them. And that was their cue. Okay, you have to play now. I had my dancers and everything on the stage, and then I went out, and when I went out I saw people jumping up and waving. That's something I have never seen when I am performing before. So it was a big push. I just felt like going and going and going, and even when I was finished I still felt like going. I remember I at one point I went to the bass when I instructed him to play the bass, and I asked him about the song and stuff like that during the performance. Then I just kicked off my shoes and I jumped down into the crowd, and the crowd went wild. I formed a Congo line in the crowd, and I did not expect that because, you know, competitions and divisions and the rivalry that we have for performers and queen contestants, etc. I did not expect that. But they embraced me. And I don't know if it's because they heard, oh, she's a Sandy Pointer.
I think you were just good.
I don't know, but
I've seen the video, and even listening on radio, you could feel the energy. You could feel that your performance was impactful.
Yes, it was really good. And when I was finished, I mean, people were there, they were still screaming. It's like they still wanted me to come back out. The announcers were overwhelmed. Everybody was overwhelmed. And then my second song, which I did not place in, but then the second song, it was the same thing. I had fireworks coming off of, I had a makeshift truck that was made out of cardboard, etc. And I had some army men, actual army men, holding it up. I had them at first giving me a drill to see if I would make it to the army. They put on my helmet and stuff like that. And then when I went down into the crowd on my truck, the fireworks coming off of my truck, etc. It was crazy. So from that, it's like almost every week since December, I've been going, saying kids every minute, we need you for this, we need you for that. And it's helping to build me a lot, because looking at the other Kititians perform who I would have gone up against, I would know what I need to work on and what people would be expecting of me. I have gotten a lot of feedback. I mean, I lost the show by a mere 2.5 points, which is not much.
Yeah.
And I realized that 2.5 points had nothing to do with my performance. It had to do with my introductory video, which did not get to play, so I had no introduction, so to speak. So I realized that I can do it. I can do it, and I need to me, I think I need to work more on myself and not depend on the dancers or any other props to help me, because I did that a lot. So I have a big gig coming up, a couple of big gigs, and I'm not using any dancers, I'm not using any props. It's just me, because I need to work on myself. Carnival is coming up in December, sorry. And the Culture is having Soca Artiste this year.
Yeah.
Yes. So there are 2 competitions that I would have, so I need to work on those.
I remember congratulating you on the Pier in Charlestown.
Yeah.
Because I really thought that song would be eating up the airwaves, even now.
Still is. It still is.
I got a sense that it's a bit
no,
off the radar.
No, it's not. I got an email a couple of days ago. I think it was Tuesday or so. The song is number 2 on a chart, a Canadian chart that it had not touched. It had just gotten to Canada, I think, about a week ago, and it's now number 2. Touching, it started the airwaves that same week, and by the end of the week, it's at number 2.
Still making moves.
And it's still on the UK charts. It's still in the top 10 on the UK charts. Caribbean Superstation, that's formerly Gem Radio, it's still on their chart, so it's still there. It's still there. What is going to be done is the music video for it. So soon, as soon as the music video hits Caribbean wise, the song is just gonna be fresh again. Okay. So that's kind of an entertaining trick that I was taught.